Hello everybody and welcome. This is a special webcast that we're doing today with a very special guest. So if you can see, the title is The Lazy Optimist, Getting the Dream Out of Your Head. And I'm going to be joined in just a few minutes by the author of the book The Lazy Optimist, that's Martin Gladdish. Welcome, my name is Julie Howe and I'm from Julie Howe Communications. I'm a public speaking trainer and campaigner. I'm really pleased to have Martin along with us today to tell us all about his book, because it's a subject that really intrigues me. As a campaigner and a speaker, I go out on stage and try and rev people up and get them excited and help people to believe that they really can make a difference in the world. You don't have to have lots of money or be part of a big organisation to make a difference, be it in your own family life, in your community, or out in the greater world. So when I heard about Martin's book, The Lazy Optimist, waking up from mediocrity and turning dreams into reality, I thought, my goodness, this is a book that I need to read and know more about, but also one that many more people I know need to know about. So let me introduce you to our very special guest, Martin Gladdish. Martin, welcome.
Hi Julie, and thanks for having me on.
It's a great pleasure to have you here. It's smashing. As you can tell, Martin is not with me. He's talking to me on the telephone. No doubt sitting by a swimming pool somewhere, enjoying the sunshine, I hope. Martin, I mean, fantastic achievement just to write a book. I think many people have an idea in their head that they might one day write a book about something but never get round to it. And I am one of those people, I have to admit. So, congratulations to you for getting this far with it. I've got a picture up on the screen now of Martin in the bookshop Waterstones, where a few weeks ago I popped along and took that picture of him while he was doing one of his signings. I mean, that must have been an incredible, I know this is your first book, Martin, it must have been an incredible experience for you.
It was, yeah, and thank you for coming along as well. It was a very strange experience, feeling like a sort of mini celebrity for the old phrase of legend in my own lunchtime. It was quite a strange experience, but it was definitely a lifetime's ambition to actually have done it. So I was very pleased with that.
Brilliant stuff. I mean, I'm absolutely in awe, and you've reminded me I need to get a book out of my head at some point. So, The Lazy Optimist. The obvious question to start with: what is a lazy optimist?
So I think lazy optimists are, I think most people have got an element of being a lazy optimist within them, and what I found is that when I start to explain it to people, the reaction I often get is, oh, that's me. So I think it's when they start to hear the description they realise that there's an element of a lazy optimist in them. And I think it's someone that has a dream or an ambition, a desire or hope, something like that, but it's lying dormant in the back of their head or somewhere in their heart, and it just hasn't come out yet. It's just, it's not really been achieved. And I don't think they're lazy people particularly. I think people who just get lazy with their dreams, they pass them by. Yeah,
it's that gap, I guess, between intention and action. And in my life as a campaigner, saying to people very frequently, I find myself saying to them, you can plan and plan and plan. I think there's almost a fixation on the kind of the planning stage, the strategic stage, because that's what we're all told to do at work, which is good practice, is to plan everything out. But sometimes that's at risk of actually doing something, or it can build up in our minds the idea of doing something and actually coming to do it just becomes so terrifying. Yeah. It's easy, as I suppose, like the ostrich, to put our head in the sand and do nothing at all about it. What made you decide to write a book on the subject?
Well, it was it's been a dream in my head for many years, and I had the title in my head a long time ago, and it was I think it was I was challenged to do it in the end, and so I took up the challenge. But it's just going back on what you said previously. Somebody, a good friend of mine, has a little saying. He has lots of sayings, but one of them is that most people are world class at getting ready. And I think that's the thing, is I'd thought about it for too long, and I was a lazy optimist, and I joke that I was probably the first one to be diagnosed, because I think it was a condition to suffer with. And so part of the cure for me was writing the book. I really did want to get the dream out of my head, and part of the reason I didn't write it for so long was because I was afraid that I might write it and send it out and that nobody would like it. And
Yes.
authors often talk about lots of rejection letters, and I thought before they get published, and I thought I'm not sure I could cope with even one rejection letter. I'm not, so that was part of the cure, really, to actually just go and do it.
You've touched on something that I think many people will relate to there. It's that fear. So often it's fear that holds us back in life, and I think the older we get, the more we become fearful of things. I think as children, we're encouraged to write, and we write about our weekend, and we write about all sorts of things. But as we get older, there is that feeling of being accepted and belonging and being right and saying the right thing. And when you think about authors and how important authors are to us, growing up, and their high esteem in which we hold authors of books that we enjoy, and I think it takes real courage actually to take that step from being somebody who would like to be an author, and then to actually become that. I can imagine. I mean, what was that like for you? What was that journey like for you, from being someone who intended to do this to somebody who actually has been through the process?
Well, it was. I mean, I was inspired by, as you said there. I looked at other authors, and I was definitely inspired by other people. Things like Who Moved My Cheese, and the 1 Minute Manager. Those sort of business books, and I was inspired by that. But as I read more and more business books, I found lots of them were quite boring. So I wanted to do more like those. The 1 Minute Manager, Who Moved My Cheese type books. But the process, so it sort of started at that point, and the process of actually, once I'd accepted that I was going to go and do it, I was going to actually go and, I'd been challenged to do it, I accepted that I was going to do it. It was actually just it was a fabulous feeling to just be doing it and know that there was a promise of success at the end. But then the funny one was I was on my own when the first hard copy proof came. It's exciting to see the printed version of the front cover and that sort of thing on the computer screen.
Yeah.
But when the first hard copy proof came through the door, I was on my own, and I must have looked quite odd because I was just staring at it for half an hour and holding the book and looking at it, and I must have looked quite strange in my own little world.
It's amazing, isn't it? It's from the intangible to the tangible, isn't it? And we have so many ideas in our heads, but to actually, have the tangible object, I can well imagine how exciting that must have been for you. And coming back again to this idea of kind of fear, and also, I think, I don't know if you would agree, we often underestimate ourselves. We underestimate what we're capable of doing, and it's interesting to me that. It sounds like a friend talked you into it. Was it another person who kind of gave you that push to, come on, Martin, enough talking about this, you actually do it? Was that the motivation? Sometimes it's an experience in our lives that make us wake up to, I must do that thing. Life is short. Was that for you, or was it somebody pushing you, or what was the thing that made you think, right, let's actually do this?
Well, no, it absolutely was. I'd had lots of. I've talked about it for years and years and years, and people have and I've shown people little bits of what I'd written, and I always got good feedback from friends. But I think we tend to not really. It's nice to get good feedback from anyone on things, but friends, you sometimes think, are you just being friendly and being nice? It was actually a business contact that put me in touch with. The person that was actually the publisher in the end. They were the ones they were the people I knew and liked, but they were sort of outside of my sort of close-knit group of friends, and so it was actually them giving me the positive encouragement that did it. And then what I've learned from, again, was I told everyone I was going to do it, and I told them the date I was going to finish it on, because I'd committed to doing it at that point.
Right.
And that was a really big thing. Making a commitment and telling everyone that I was going to do it. I didn't want to then fail at that point.
That's very important, isn't it? Once it's kind of out there, it becomes like a responsibility, I guess, that you
Yeah,
when you set a deadline and when you share it with other people, that's bound to spur you on. And it's Libet Publishing is your publisher, is that right? You
that's
published
right. Yeah,
your
it's Muriel from Livid Publishing. Yeah.
Okay, let's have a look at the character I pops up on the screen now. Charlie, so
Yeah.
you've written, the way that you've written your book, if anyone's thinking, oh, another dry management style textbook, absolutely not the case with the book that Martin has written. Martin has developed a character called Charlie, which I'm suspecting is slightly autobiographical, and takes us through Charlie's experience, well, as a lazy optimist. Well, Martin, tell us a bit more about Charlie. Where did he come from, and is he really you?
Yeah, I must hold my hands up and say, yeah, probably 70%. He says, picking a statistic out of the air. But no, there's a large part of him is me, and certainly the people that have known me all my life that have read it have sort of picked that up. So there's a large part of him that's me. There's a few bits that are me disguised as something else. And then other things are just my observations of other people that I've met, things I've seen, but mostly it is me. And yeah, and so I felt, to be really open, I actually felt quite exposed writing it. Really, there was sort of quite a lot of me went onto, a lot of my heart was sort of spilled onto the page, really in writing it, and I suppose that made it even more special, really, to be able to do that.
So Charlie's someone that you take as a character, and we meet him first of all when he's a child, and he's full of optimism and self-belief, and then as you take us through his life, that tends to be gradually replaced by kind of a sort of blind faith or a belief that's not supported by actions. And I guess he realizes that at some point, as most of us do, we're like, well, 40 or thereabouts, and good, these things I assumed would just happen, kind of haven't. Yeah. It's quite I think that's a journey many people will relate to.
Yeah, it was like, always having ambition, but just thinking that just because you had optimism and you were a positive person and you went, you had this thing that you thought you would become one day, that just, I think I know certainly for me, I just went on through life thinking that it would just arrive one day, gift wrapped with a ribbon, and somebody would just say, there you go, that's your success. And life's just not like that.
No, absolutely.
And, there's a line in the book which I particularly liked, where it says about Charlie that it wasn't that he couldn't be bothered, he just became not bothered enough that he couldn't. And so that sort of, for me, really summed up where Charlie had got to. It had gone, perhaps fear held him back, but it had gone to just neglect, really, of the dream.
Yes.
And it looked like lazy, but he wasn't a lazy person by any means. It just, just lazy with his dreams.
Yeah, I think a lot of people buy into this idea that if it's meant to be, it will happen, which is completely the opposite, I have to say, of how I think. I think I'm one of the people who thinks you make your own luck. If you want something to happen, you need to do something to make it happen, even if it's turning up to places where you're likely to meet the people who can help to make your dream happen, or do something a bit more direct to make things happen. And this when I was reading Charlie's story in the book, I was really struck by that. He got to that point, and there's a point at which many people become cynical because they've believed, oh, it will just happen, and then suddenly we're in kind of midlife and feeling, oh, it didn't happen because life's not kind to me and I'm not a lucky person. And that's not the case at all. It's that they haven't woken up to the realization that actually you need to do something actively in life. And that's what's for me, that's what's wonderful about life, is there's so much possibility if you go out there and actively do something to create the circumstances where great things can happen. For me, that was a very powerful message through your book.
It's interesting that out of I had a very clear picture when I started to write, there were bits that had been written over the years, but I had a very clear picture. But the bit that was the revelation to me as I wrote it, I didn't realise until I was writing it that exactly what you said there, that I'd started to to blame circumstance and just think of myself as unlucky, and look at other people around me and just think they were lucky. And but I didn't realise that until the process of writing the book. That was the bit that was the revelation to me, really. The rest of it wasn't planned as such, but it was, I knew the bits I wanted to put in and the lessons I wanted to try and share with people.
So who's the book for? Yeah, who's the book for, Martin?
Well, originally it was aimed at, like you said there, it was aimed for 40-somethings, and probably 40-something males, really, is what I initially was thinking, people like myself. Missing off duty to lie about my age there. But it was aimed at those people. There are people that sort of were getting itchy feet about their work life in particular, but couldn't quite put the finger on what it was that was where the itch was, the bit that was bothering them. But that's definitely who it was aimed for. But the feedback I've had is that it has a much wider appeal. I've had good comments from teenagers, from school teachers, even sort of retired people, lots of business owners as well, in particular, and people that work for themselves, and I've had really good feedback across the board, which is nice as well.
Yes, so it's interesting you say from retired people, because of course in the times we live in now, you know, if you're fortunate enough to get to retire, as many of us aren't because of, you know, financial circumstances and constraints, but retirement can be long because we're living for longer, and it's an opportunity to contribute in a different way and do different things, isn't it? I haven't met anybody who has actually been able to retire, who has retired, you know, completely and hasn't gone on to then do other things, and you reach that point where you can suddenly, if you've paid off your mortgage, you have time and you don't have the pressure of having to make money. And it's lovely to think that a book like this can inspire somebody, you know, 70 plus, you know, to go on and do things that all of their life they thought was perhaps beyond their reach, or certainly beyond their reach in their thinking. So it's wonderful to hear that retired people are being inspired by it. So where do we get your book?
It's available on Amazon. There is or through the website. There's also a free download that accompanies the book on the website at the Lazy Optimist, or just lazyoptimist.co.uk, or it's available on Amazon. Just search for it on Amazon.
And I've popped your email address up there as well, martin@wateredmeadow.co.uk. So that's The Lazy Optimist. It's by Martin Gladdish, and it's published by Live It Publishing. Go to Amazon to pick up your copy. Martin, just before we finish, sort of say, what's your call to action to the readers of your book? What would you like people who have read your book to do?
Well, because it's primarily the story of Charlie, but the end of the story is how he actually did it. There's some practical advice in there about how to get the dream out of your head, and that's what it's like you said there. It's lovely to hear good feedback and for people to say, yeah, you've really provoked me to think about my dreams and those sort of things. So I'd love to hear feedback from people. I'd love it if it made a difference, if I could help other people beat lazy optimism and turn positive thinking into positive action.
And this is your first book, so is there a second book in the pipeline?
Yes, there is. I'd like to. There's a few bits that I'd like to sort of dig into in the book, really, and things like what that you mentioned before about fear. I'd like to dig into a little bit about fear, and I know I've heard you speak about the subject yourself, and it's sort of picked up some things there that some of your thoughts, which could help inspire that as well. But yeah, I'd like to dig into a little bit more about that. But it was a great process, and I would love to do it again. Yeah.
Excellent. Brilliant. Martin Gladdish, thank you so much. Do pick up a copy of Martin's book. I highly recommend it, The Lazy Optimist by Martin Gladdish. Martin, thank you for joining us.
Thanks very much indeed, Julie.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.